Somebody probably named their kid that too. Good morning, sir. What's your name?
Beaman.
All right, Mr. Beaman, could you take your hat off? Let me give you a proper name here. And I've got Heather Logan joining us also. Mr. Beaman, is Miss Boyd with you?
No, she's incarcerated right now.
Where?
LaGrange.
All right. I've also got Samsung. Let's see who that is. Mitch Carver, which case are you here on?
David McCurchie.
All right. Mr. Beaman, Miss Logan, and Miss Carver, we're here on landlord-tenant proceedings. And as a defendant in a landlord-tenant proceeding, including non-payment of rent, termination of tenancy, or other action like a foreclosure action, you have the following legal rights. You have the right to obtain counsel for representation in this matter. If you cannot afford an attorney, a legal aid attorney may be available to help you. You have a right to a trial by a jury or by the court if the action is for non-payment of rent. And if you are eligible for any assistance, you do not need the judgment to receive that assistance. A summons and complaint from the court case is sufficient. If the plaintiff is agreeable, the Citizens Mediation Services, Inc. may be available as a possible source of case resolution. If both parties are agreeable to mediation, we can help set that up here from the court. If you do reach an agreement with the plaintiff and a consent judgment is entered by the court, you would waive the rights listed above, but have the following additional rights. The judgment may not be enforced until 3 business days had passed. You could move to set aside the judgment within those 3 days if you misunderstood what you consented to or what you were waiving. Your motion to set aside the judgment would be set before a judge, me. However, if I did not rule in your favor, the original judgment would stand. All right, Mr. Porter, let's talk about Maple Crest versus Beaman and Boyd. Amy Boyd apparently is in LaGrange County Jail. If I'd known that, I might have made arrangements to get her here. I understand that principal occupant is Cliff Beaman. So Mr. Nick Beaman, are you living there?
Not at the moment. I'm staying with a friend that just lost his mom.
And Amy is in jail?
Yes. But my dad has been staying there to keep the apartment until she is released.
Well, I guess there's an issue regarding that, but you have to pay the rent.
We do.
Mr. Porter, what's the current rent arrearage?
Your Honor, the current rent arrearage as of this week is $913. This is a weekly rental, so by the time we come back next week, that will have increased by $180.
All right. Yes,
nice.
Mr. Beaman. Yeah.
It was a weekly rental, but we started paying by the month, and because my dad gets paid Social Security, and they agreed on that, this Debbie. And I've got receipts right here that that show that they're not correct about what we owe.
All right.
I mean, on the 5th month, it said we were paid in full. On the 6th month, it says we're $1,278 behind.
We
How's
may
that?
have to sort that out. Now, Patricia, are you accepting of Cliff Beaman as a tenant, even though he's not on the lease?
No, I'm not. Heather Logan spoke with him when he came in and paid last week. He only paid $780, at which point they still owed $708.55. And she told him that he needs to come in and sign a new lease if he's planning on staying in the unit.
They also told him that he missed last month's payment, which was making him behind, and that he needed to show them a receipt, and he did that. And they still said we were behind. Even
Well,
after,
one of the reasons why we need to adjourn these is because sometimes we need to figure these things out. The law requires that I continue this matter at least 7 days. And let's take a look at next Friday, November 3rd. That is our first Friday of the month, so the morning is filled. Mr. Porter, just for your info, we're just being inundated with landlord-tenant cases, and we lose some dates. But November 3rd, we're here, and I can set the matter for 2 p.m. for Friday, November 3rd. Does that work for you?
That works for me. I think I have other matters on that day already, so I'll be here.
That works out well. I try not to spread people all over the map, but you got Sturgis Housing Commission, and this will be right after that. So that will be November 3rd. Now, Mr. Beaman, in the meantime,
yes,
Cliff Beaman needs to go meet with the management and sign a lease if he intends to stay there. You just
fine.
brought somebody in and left him in the room. Right now, he's what's called a tenant at sufferance. The other thing you need to do is figure out between your receipts and theirs, how much is due. And then we will discuss that further on November 3rd. We'll try to come to a number, and then I would give you 10 days to pay that. Does Amy Boyd have an out date?
I'm not exactly sure at this point. I think maybe she's supposed to be going to like one of the houses that they offer.
All right. I'll have my staff check with LaGrange County for
Okay.
her status.
Judge, I'm also happy to consult with Mr. Beaman briefly.
All right. A representative is here from legal aid, and they can discuss this with you. But right now, you're not there, she's not there, someone that's not on the lease is there, and there's a dispute as to how much rent is due. At least you didn't bring in a pit bull, so we got that going for us. So
Right. I mean, he's been staying. We've been paying for 3 people since she went to jail too. So
All right,
I mean,
well,
they knew he was there.
well, knowing he's there and having him on the lease are two different
Right.
things.
He don't have a
So,
problem. That's fine.
All right.
He'll go up and do
Anyway,
that.
I would encourage you to meet with Heather or Patricia and try to work on this before I see you next Friday at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
All right, do you have any questions?
No.
All right, you're good to go.
All right. Thank you.
Now, our next matter is Maple Crest.
Was not, that was Tenant, correct?
Correct.
All right, well, let's, well, you were gonna be here anyway. Let's address this case. Are you Nick Beaman?
Yes.
All right, this is a return to file 231391 LT. At least we can accomplish something while we're waiting. This is a termination of tenancy action that was filed by the landlord. Heather Logan is here on behalf of Maple Crest. No, it's a non-payment of rent case. The parties are a little strange. Amy Boyd is not present. She was last we knew in the LaGrange County Jail. Nick Beaman is here, but he's not there. His father, Cliff Beaman, is there, and there is a rent arrearage. So, Mr. Porter, what's the current arrearage?
Current arrearage is $1,093.55, Your Honor. And for clarification, both Nick and Amy are on the lease. Cliff, who we discovered at the last hearing, is actually occupying his lease.
I still stay there. I was just staying with a friend, helping them out. Their mother died.
All right, well, you're on the lease, but Cliff isn't, but. Well, do you agree with the amount that's owed?
No, we just gave her like all the receipts I could find a couple hours ago. And I don't know if that's, I mean, they didn't even have a couple of our payments on their list. So, I mean, I don't understand how it would be that far behind like that.
All right, Miss Logan, can you help us?
Yes, Your Honor. I was in the office this morning, was around 1 p.m. They came in, brought several receipts. I did notice on their ledger that I have that some of those receipts were not marked. I talked to my supervisor, Patricia East, and she asked if we make it another 10 days. That way, due to the fact that they brought them in at late notice.
All right, so you'd ask to continue this to reconcile the amounts?
Yes, sir.
Is that agreeable with you, Jacob?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get an updated ledger amount done.
When we were last here, it was October. Now it's November. But if we adjourn this for 2 weeks or so, we'll still be in November. So let's take a look. We've lost a couple of upcoming dates. How about Friday, November 17th at 11 a.m.?
That's fine for me, Your Honor.
That works for me as well, Your Honor.
All right, that will give you time. Yeah, if he brought the stuff in an hour ago, we're gonna be in the same rental month, so I guess that's not.
I would
There
know.
should be some discussion about what you're gonna do with Cliff. Either he's gonna be on the lease or not on the lease. But this is about payment of rent, not who's on the lease. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
I would know, Your Honor, this lease is a week to week, so the arrearage amount will continue to go up if it's not paid.
We pay every month.
Well, I'll have to sort that out too. At any rate, we have 2 weeks. Keep paying your rent. And we'll figure out what the arrearage is when we meet again on November 17th. At that point, I will tell you how much you owe, and I'll give you 10 days to pay it, or you'd be subject to being evicted, which would be November 17th. All right, do you have any questions?
I have a question about are they gonna deduct what we've overpaid for how many tenants that have been there since May?
I don't know. That's what you're gonna work on in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Regarding how much you paid and how much is in the ledger, and see if you can come to an agreement. If you can't, we may have to take testimony and figure it out.
All right.
All right, November 17th at 11 a.m. I will see everybody then.
Thank you.
All right, we were here on November 3rd. The matter was adjourned for we were here on multiple times. We were here on October 24th, November 3rd. We continued the matter as a non-payment of rent case for the plaintiff to attempt to reconcile the amounts owed. Mr. Porter or Ms. Logan, can you tell me what the current arrearage is?
Current amount is $978.55. We did review
All right, that's through when?
that is through today, Your Honor. There was a couple checks that were not accounted for in the ledger, but after getting the receipts from Mr. Beaman, we double checked the ledger as well as the bank account records for the money transfers, and that is the current amount owed.
That's lower than it was. Do you accept that, Mr. Beaman?
Well, I'm not really sure. I mean, at one point, they said they were gonna honor $800 with the receipts that I turned in, and then at another point, it was only $500. And I'm still not understanding if they're doing us by the week, because we were told we were paying by the month. And so,
Is Amy Boyd with you?
no, she is incarcerated, and that's another reason I'd
that's
like
right.
her continuance today, so she can get with legal aid and me as well. Because
She's incarcerated in Indiana, is that correct?
yes, they've been combining our late fees with our rent and charging us late fees on top of it.
All right. Well, some of the attorneys, Mr. Bush, Mr. Thornton, several others, give me an accounting so I know what it is, how we came up with $978.55. So, Mr. Porter, can you break that down for me?
I could provide the court with the ledger, Your Honor. This is a weekly lease, and we're not aware of any agreement to change this to a monthly lease. The lease does provide that any changes would have to be in writing, and we don't have anything in writing.
All right, well, tell me.
So there is a $25 weekly late fee that has been applied just about every week.
Because we pay by the month. That was an agreement we made with the prior people that ran.
Well, it has to be in writing. It has to be in writing. Some backhanded agreement you made with somebody else may not be enforceable. Did they have a pattern of paying monthly, Miss Logan?
We sure did.
Yes, Your Honor. I've been here only a month and they've made one monthly payment. And the father did explain to me that they had a verbal agreement with Debbie Heffley, who was the previous manager. But I have nothing in writing, Your Honor. I can't go by word of mouth.
All right, we're gonna need to have a hearing on this. This is the fourth time we've adjourned this. They've got a verbal agreement of accepting monthly rent. They've been accepting monthly rent. And then in the meantime, they're charging them $25 a week when they're late, which essentially raises the rent $100 a month. And I don't know how $978.55, what it's comprised of. I don't know how much is late fees, how much is rent. So we're gonna have to, I dread this. This is the fourth time we've done this. But if they have a pattern and practice of accepting the rent on a monthly basis, they may be stuck with it. Also, I'm not sure I allow $25 a week late fees on a week-to-week tenancy. I've allowed up to $50 per month. I used to allow $10 a week, but the lease clearly says $25 a week late fee. Well, you're charging them a late fee when you've had a pattern and practice of accepting the rent monthly. So, Mr. Porter, how do we get $978.55?
Well, Your Honor, I think having a hearing may be necessary because it is an ongoing issue with the rent has not been paid in full according to this ledger since the beginning of the year.
That's not, I've got receipts.
So
it was paid in full. They're just
So-
not honoring their own receipts.
All right, Mr. Beaman, just a minute. Someone tell me how much 978.55 is, how much is rent and how much is late fees?
Heather, can you
Yeah, the rent, his weekly rent is $180. It's due Friday, and then after Monday is when we enforce when we apply the $25 late fee. He does pay the monthly fee, so I mean it just keeps adding up with the 180 and then plus the $25.
Heather, so I think Judge Middleton's asking how much of the 978 is late fees and how much of it is back rent.
Okay, let me see. So there's, from the ledger that I have 17 late fees. So that would, well, $425 in late fees.
And then you continue to accept the rent monthly, but assess $100 a month in late fees. So he needs legal aid. They would unpack this, but I'm not sure you can, by verbal agreement and by pattern and practice, accept it monthly and then assess the weekly fee. So if we take $425 worth of late fees out of here, what do I do with my calculator?
And I'm not really sure when they had that verbal agreement with Debbie. So I'm not sure, like,
Look,
before
we're paying month by
Your
month.
Honor, the remaining the rent out of that would be $553.55.
All right.
If I could, in the interest of not having to put this off for another hearing, I could speak with my client. We may be willing to.
Yes. Before we do that, Mr. Beaman, would you accept if I take the late fees out that you owe $553 of unpaid rent through today?
It's due today.
Through today. It's not due today. You'll have additional time to pay it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
All right, then let me put you in the waiting room. I'm gonna let them talk to each other. Open a breakout room.
All right, Judge, are we still on Beaman?
Yeah, let me get her back. Here she is. Let me bring Mr. Beaman back. Mr. Swank, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, we'll be with you in just a minute. We're finishing up another case.
So, Judge, in consideration of entering a judgment today, we would be willing to waive those late fees. If, however, there isn't an agreement on the back rent, then we will not waive the late fees. Further.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Mr. Beaman, can you unmute your mic? If we take all the late fees out and we add in the payments you've made, rent only through today is $553.55. Court costs are $110 filing fee, $56.26 service fee, and a $75 attorney fee by statute, which is $241.26. So if we add that up, 558.55 plus 241.26 26 equals $799.81. Due through today, through November 17th. Now, Mr. Beaman,
Yes.
your lease says you pay week to week with a $25 late fee. Someone made a verbal agreement, which was never written down, and they're not there anymore. So going forward, unless you amend your lease with the management, it's $180 per week with a late fee. Now, you need to pay this within 10 days. So the rent is, let's see, I thought I had a judgment. I don't.
Judgment should have been sent to the courthouse, Your Honor, but if not, I
Let
can
me see.
resend one.
Thought I had one. It's a lot easier when I do, but I don't have one. So I lost it, which is certainly possible.
I can have it emailed over to the court right now, Your Honor.
All right, the rent, Mr. Beaman, is $553.55. They waived 17 weeks of late fees. Court costs are $241.76. So the rent through today only is $799.81. That's due within 10 days from today, which is November 27th. Tomorrow, another week's rent of $180 is due. And then after that, another $180 and another $180. Now, if you can meet with the manager and they'll agree to convert the lease to a monthly lease, you can do that. But right now, what is in writing and what you signed was weekly. Now, Miss Boyd is in custody in Indiana and is unavailable for this hearing. And she's not in a position to pay anything on this anyway. So Mr. Beaman, you made some payments. We took a lot of money off of this. It was originally much higher than this. But they've got new owners. You need a current lease. It's expensive, $180 per week, plus a $25 late fee is $205 per week times $52 or 52 weeks divided by 12 is $888. I guess 180 times 52 divided by 12. 70. That isn't so bad. But it's about $780 per month. But if you can't pay the rent without Miss Boyd's help, you may consider. What's that?
We pay the rent just fine by the month. So I guess what I need to know is if they're willing to accept monthly payments or not. And if they're not, then I guess we will take this to review or whatever.
All right. Well, I just gave you, I took it off weekly because you've been paying it monthly. So so you got what you asked for. The problem is the lease starting today, it's weekly unless they change it. That's what the written lease says. So in landlord tenant law, what somebody told you a year ago without putting in writing, they're not bound by it. So you can meet with them and see if they'll alter the lease to make it monthly, and then everybody can live happily ever after. But you need to pay $799.81 by November 27th.
$800 by November 27th.
Now, then there'll be another 180 due on top of that. But that's what the order is going to say because it's only through today. So my suggestion is you sit down with a manager, see if you can come up with a current lease that you can both live with and go on from there. All right. I don't know why these are always so hard, but they seem to be. All right, Mr. Beaman, good luck to you, sir. And Miss Logan knows what the deal is. You guys can talk to each other. Jacob, if you would email me that order, it would be
Should be on its
helpful.
way right now, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Judge, so you would like copies of the ledger breakdown prior to these hearings?
No, I'll show you what Lance or John give me. It's
All right,
just a
that would be great.
breakdown each week of what is what. And it is very helpful and it speeds things up immensely. Chris Yancey used to do it. In fact, they called it the Chris Yancey form. Because she would do it. And then I'll give you an example of one.
I appreciate that.
They sent me that and a judgment. And so I'm ready to go each time.
Anything I can
All
do
right,
to make
Ms.
these
Logan,
go a little bit
hopefully you and-
easier.
All right, thanks. I like easier for everybody's sake. All right, thank you.